Level 1. The recruitment. You are nobody. That is not an insult. That is precisely why he chose you. He finds you the way he finds everyone. Not by accident, not by luck, but because he has been watching long enough to know exactly what kind of person survives what he is about to propose. You are smart enough to be useful, desperate enough to say yes, and invisible enough that when you disappear for several months to prepare for the most ambitious heist in human history, nobody files a report. The meeting happens in a place unremarkable enough that you almost miss it. A man sits across from you with the posture of someone who has already calculated every possible version of this conversation and knows which one ends with you agreeing. He does not threaten, he does not seduce. He simply lays out the plan the way a mathematician lays out a proof, step by step, clean and inevitable, until the conclusion feels less like a choice and more like the only logical outcome. He calls it a resistance, not a robbery. A resistance. You notice the word. You file it away. Later you will understand exactly how much work that single word was doing. You say yes. Of course you say yes. The plan is insane and brilliant, and the man explaining it speaks about it with the calm certainty of someone who has lived inside it for years already. And underneath the fear, which is real, there is something else. The feeling that you have just been let into a room that most people never even find the door to. You say yes. The professor nods once. The plan has already accounted for your yes. It was always going to be yes. Level 2. The preparation. 5 months in a house in the middle of nowhere with people who have no names. Only cities. Tokyo, Berlin, Nairobi, Moscow, Rio. You are given one too. A city that will become more yours than your actual name ever felt. The professor's rule is simple and absolute. No real names, no personal histories, no connections. You are not people here. You are functions inside a machine that has to work perfectly or not at all. The training is relentless. You study the mint's blueprints until the corridors exist in your sleep. You learn the shift rotations of every security guard, the response times of every police unit in Madrid, the precise weight of silence before an alarm triggers. You learn to think in contingencies. If this, then that. If that fails, then this. The professor does not prepare for success. He prepares for every version of failure, and then he prepares for the failure of those preparations. You begin to understand that what looks like obsession from the outside is actually the only rational response to attempting the impossible. But the house is also human in ways the plan cannot account for. People with no names still have histories that leak through at the edges. You watch alliances form and fracture over dinner. You watch Berlin command the room with the particular authority of someone who has decided that charm and cruelty are the same tool. You watch Tokyo move through space like someone who has been running from something long enough that running has become her natural state. You learn the plan. You also learn these people. Both educations will matter inside. Level 3. The Mint. The first 60 seconds inside the Royal Mint of Spain are the most precise 60 seconds of your life. Everything happens exactly as rehearsed. The doors, the guards, the positions, the timing, for 1 full minute. The plan and the reality are the same thing. And in that minute you feel what the professor must feel all the time. The specific calm of a person whose preparation has met the moment and found it sufficient. Then the second minute happens. And the third. And by the 4th minute you understand something the blueprints could not teach you, which is that a building full of hostages is not a static problem. It is a living system. It breathes and shifts and generates variables that no amount of preparation can fully anticipate. A hostage has a panic attack. A guard lied about his schedule. Someone outside the plan is making a decision that will land inside it in approximately 4 minutes, and you need to adapt right now. You adapt. That is what surprises you most. Not that things go wrong, but that you are capable of handling them going wrong. Something in the preparation went deeper than the blueprints. It changed the way you process pressure. You do not freeze. You assess. You move. You communicate. You are inside this building, more functional under crisis than you have ever been in ordinary life. And somewhere in the back of your mind, in a thought you do not have time to finish, you wonder what that says about you. Level 4. The weight. The hostages are not abstractions. That is the thing the plan cannot fully prepare you for either. They are people with faces and names and specific fears that express themselves in specific ways, and you are the person standing between them and the door. Some of them hate you with a clarity that is almost clarifying. Some of them, after enough hours, begin to look at you differently. Not with sympathy exactly, but with the particular attention people give to someone they are trying to understand, because understanding feels safer than not understanding. You do not hurt anyone. That is your line and you hold it. But holding a line in a place where everything is pressure is its own kind of exhausting. Berlin does not always hold the same line. You watch him make decisions that the professor would not sanction and that you cannot undo, and that costs something, not in the plan's mechanics, but in something harder to name, the moral accounting of what is happening here, which you agreed to and which is now real in ways that a blueprint cannot prepare you for. The professor's voice comes through the earpiece with the steadiness of someone watching from a distance, and that distance, which is his greatest tactical advantage, is also the thing that separates his version of events from yours. He sees the board. You are on it. Both perspectives are true. They do not feel the same. Level 5. The unraveling. Things go wrong in the way that complex systems go wrong. Not all at once, but in a sequence where each failure creates the conditions for the next one. And by the time you see the shape of what is happening, it is too late to stop it from the inside. Someone makes a decision driven by something the plan never accounted for. Love, loyalty, grief. The specifically human things that no blueprint survives contact with. The police are not what you expected either. Inspector Raquel Murillo is not the opponent the professor's models described. She is smarter and more adaptable, and she is learning the plan the way you learn the mint, by living inside the pressure of it, by finding the edges, by looking for the place where the logic breaks. You begin to feel the plan as a finite thing, a structure with walls, and the walls are closer than they were. This is the level where you understand what the professor actually built, not a robbery, not a resistance. A controlled environment designed to give a group of people with nothing left to lose the experience of mattering, of being inside something larger than their individual failure. The money was never entirely the point. The point was this: the specific dignity of a person who decided once to attempt the impossible and nearly made it true. You feel it even as it fractures, especially as it fractures. Level 6. The meaning you get out. How is not the point. The point is the morning after, in a place that is not Spain, with money that does not feel like what you thought money would feel like. It feels like evidence. Evidence of something that happened, that was real, that changed the internal geography of who you are in ways that the external geography of where you are cannot reflect. You think about the professor, about a man who spent years building a plan inside his head because the world outside it had given him no acceptable options, and he was too precise and too angry and too alive to accept that. You think about Berlin, who walked into an ending he chose because it was the only kind of ending that matched the size of what he was. You think about the hostages, whose faces you still carry, who did not ask to be inside your plan, and whose presence inside it cost you something you cannot fully calculate. The red jumpsuit is gone. The city name is gone. You have your name back and it fits differently now. The way everything fits differently after you have been through something that reorganized what you know about yourself. You are not a criminal. You are not a revolutionary. You are not the person the professor recruited, or the person the police were hunting, or the person the hostages feared. You are the person who said yes in an unremarkable room to an impossible plan, and then lived inside it long enough to find out who that made you. The answer is complicated. You were not expecting simple. Simple was never on offer here. The professor told you that in the first meeting, between the lines, in the space between the blueprint and the reality where all the actual living happens, you open a window. Outside, somewhere, a news channel is still talking about the heist. They have the facts mostly right and the meaning entirely wrong. That is fine. The meaning was never for them. It was always only for the people in the red jumpsuits. And now, permanently and without ceremony, for you. End card hook. At which level would you have walked away? Or would you have stayed until the end?